Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 795. I had the white pieces and started off with d4. My opponent went knight f6. I go c4, the main move there, and he goes c5. c5 is a very interesting move. You can see it's the third choice here after e6 and g6. e6 being Nimzo Indian, g6 being King's Indian, or Grunfeld most likely. There are other systems as well, but those are the most common outcomes. And then third choice here is c5, which leads to a Benoni after d5. This is a Benoni structure, and but you don't have to go only for the Benoni. That's one option with e6. You can also go for the Benko gambit here with b5. A pretty interesting way to play. It's a decent gambit for black. Black gives up a pawn, but has long-term pressure on the queen side. And even if you decline the gambit the way I did here, which leads to an advantage for white. I actually have the edge through the early part of this game. It's still, black has counterplay and some annoying pressure over here on the queen side, and it leads to different kind of positions. So black always has something interesting to play for in the Benko gambit. So anyway, the idea with the Benko is to play a6 and encourage white to take, and then well, black takes back with the bishop a lot of times and is going to trade it off for this bishop and disrupt white's castling privileges. That's one way it can be played. So the move I play here, b6, is the way of declining the gambit. So it's not a gambit. It was called the Benko gambit half accepted, but basically it's a way of declining the gambit or giving the pawn back right away. And this is pretty good. This also keeps an edge for white, about the same edge from the chess engine point of view as if you had taken the pawn. So it's a decent way for white to play. Then black can go d6 or e6. You can see also is a very popular choice, immediately undermining, or just taking right away. Eventually he does take, but he delays taking for a while. So he plays d6 first. I get my knight out. He goes knight bd7, so he has the option of rounding up that pawn with his knight. I go e4. At some point I need to defend that d5 pawn, particularly if he's playing with this knight to b6 idea. He's going to get pressure on the d5 point, and that happens in the game as well, but it helps to support it with the e4 pawn. So he goes g6, a very typical move in the Benko. This bishop is going to coordinate with the rooks and apply pressure on the b file, and particularly on the b2 point or the c3 point. And you can see that this pawn structure, with the way black has placed his pawns, reinforcing the dark squares, and the way my pawns have been encouraged to move forward, leaving some holes on the dark squares. So you can say black has a dark squared strategy here. So I go knight f3, and he took. It looks like we're out of the opening book, but actually we're just kind of transposing into a different line. The normal move here is, just to continue with bishop to g7. Just put the bishop on that diagonal right away. And after bishop e2, that's probably how I would play it. What was the other option? The other option was a4. Yeah, that might be an interesting way to play too, but usually I just get my pieces out and black castles and white castles, and play continues from here. Black is just taking his time rounding up that pawn. In the game, he played queen takes b6 right away. And you see, even though that wasn't a move in that particular position, we've actually just transposed into a line where black had taken on b6 a little earlier. So bishop e2 is still a move. I went with knight d2. Those moves are kind of interchangeable, I guess. He goes bishop g7, and then I go knight c4. Bishop e2, I guess, is the main move here, but this is not bad. I looked at this with a chess engine, and it's still okay. Keeping that edge for white, and then his queen went here. And I put my bishop on d3. So I have, I guess I like the bishop on d3 because it's lending extra support to the e-pawn, makes these knights a little more mobile. Sometimes there's these ideas of just trading this knight off and grabbing this pawn. But looks like the opening book mostly has the bishop placed on the e2 square. So something to keep in mind if you're playing this. Let's see, he castled here. I castled. We're just out of the opening book, and the chess engine is still giving that opening advantage to white. I think I keep it all the way up till move 23 here or so. So it's an interesting way to, even though black is getting pressure, white has that some kind of space advantage here in the center, and I think you just got to keep playing, and you just have to be willing to deal with all these threats from black. Anyway, it's not like black is in bad shape. It's a typical kind of chess engine evaluation where it says white it's better, but it doesn't give a clear plan by which you can really achieve that. But anyway, e6, you want to take in a case like this. I checked it out, and taking is really the best move. The problem is that this center is really too fragile. If you let him take, you're not going to be able to hold the center. So you might as well take, and then that creates a pawn weakness on black's side. Let's see. He took back. I went bishop to c2. There was another interesting idea here. The chess engine wants to play bishop to f4 right away as the way to maximize the pressure. I was a little worried about this e5 move. I wasn't sure this locked up position was so good for me, but the chess engine says just drop the bishop back, and you should be in good shape after these moves. Either black takes the knight or you take the knight, and then you get the bishop, the light squared bishop on this good diagonal here, and that's enough. So you don't have so much play against these pawns, which are pretty solid at this point. And black does have a good light squared bishop, but his dark squared bishop is a bit blocked in. So looks like this is a good position for white anyway. So that's one way to keep the edge. This also keeps an edge, so I haven't yet messed up. Let's see, he goes knight e8. I went bishop g5. I wanted to get the bishop out of the way so I could get my queen, move my queen up to d2. He went bishop b7, and I went queen d2. But right here, actually, there was a tactical shot. Well, it's not a tactical shot. Just the move queen g4. It's developing the queen with tempo and taking a look at the e-pawn, which is also weak. Both the e-pawn and the d-pawn are kind of weak in the setup. I was playing my queen up to d2 with the idea of bringing a rook over here and focusing on the weak d-pawn. And I wasn't really thinking about this e-pawn weakness, but yeah, especially that he moved his bishop away, his immediately preceding move was bishop to b7, and so queen g4 is a good answer to bishop b7. And maybe it's a little awkward for him to defend that pawn, and he doesn't necessarily want to just push it forward and leave holes on the light squares. So anyway, that leads to an advantage for white as well. Queen d2, and still keeping an edge. Let's see, he goes knight e5. I traded. Didn't seem like there was anything better, and starts to feel like he is getting getting his position in order here. And it was this bishop h4 move. I think this is where it starts to equalize. The chess engine wants to play like this: king h1. Say plays bishop to f6 to offer a trade, and then f4, and then allowing this trade and getting a pawn all the way on g5, and then knight g7, get this knight back into the game. So white's holding on to this pawn on e4, controlling the f5 square. So the knight's defending this pawn, maybe it'll get into the game via the h5 square, and then rook a to d1, piling up on the d pawn again. And it gives a significant edge to white in this position. Still, it's a long game at this point, but that's one way the chess engine says to keep an advantage. Let's see, I go bishop h4. He went bishop f4, queen d3. So he's kicking my queen around a little bit. g5, drop my bishop back, and e5. So he did eventually push that pawn forward. And, I should have been thinking about this bishop to b3 move. I wasn't really considering that idea, but yeah, it looks like it's a pretty good way to play. Yeah, there's a line coming up where it shows that. Anyway, I traded first. This is okay, and went f3. Just hold down his pawns, keep it from advancing and disrupting my king side. And he went knight f6, and here's where things go a little wrong for me. I guess I still have an edge at this point. He maybe didn't play the most accurate moves after I went bishop h4 too. The way to play this, go ahead and continue with this rook d1 plan, which I'd been thinking about for a while. Rook a to d8, then throw on this check, bishop b3 check. King goes to the corner, and put the bishop on this good square. And also, excuse me, take a look at this h pawn over here, or a pawn. I mentioned, I think during the game, that one of the ideas here with this particular way of handling the Benko gambit is that you leave him this pawn, but it might become a weakness later. And it looks like now is a point in the game where you can try and exploit that weakness. And looks like you have good control over the light squares here. Well, I mean, he's got counter pressure. Sorry, he's also got pieces looking at the d5 square, but white has more, and this pawn might become some kind of permanent weakness. So interesting position for white and with an edge. So the next two moves, I guess, are what really give away the advantage. It was knight e2, king h8, and then I went g3. That was part of my whole plan here. And once again, instead of g3, bishop to b3, putting it on that diagonal is a good idea, and avoiding weakening the king side. So g3 was a mistake, and after this, actually, he should have the advantage, but he didn't play it in the best way himself. So he just took, and after that, it's even again. So for black to come out of this with an advantage, he needs to push on with d5. And after this exchange, push on with c4. Very enterprising way for the chess engine to play. Queen drops back, and then take with the knight. And let's see, I can grab this pawn, and he could throw in a check. That was the point of pushing that pawn forward with a tempo, activating the queen, and then rook to d8, putting the rook opposite my queen, forcing me to move again and probably grab this pawn over here eventually. And it looks like this is a good position for black. He sort of pushed me back. And so that opportunity was afforded by my move g3, creating some weaknesses here. But he just took. And I took back. And after this, it's still in the range of about even. So we're both still doing okay here. I made some mistakes, and he made some mistakes. So anyway, let's see. He played bishop c8, and I went king h1. He was, I think, planning to bring his bishop out to h3. I wanted to be able to deal with that by moving my rook to the g file. Let's see, but he went bishop e6 here. So I just played b3. That protects the pawns, and it also looks at stopping his pawns from coming forward. He goes a5. This is also a typical Benko strategy to push the a pawn forward, liquidate it against these two pawns, and create a weak b pawn on my part. So turning black's weakness into white's weakness, if he can get away with that. Let's see, I go rook a d1 now, putting pressure on that, and so he goes forward with d5. So he did get the chance to liquidate this weakness, but he has left himself with a bunch of isolated pawns. And let's see, my next move was a mistake just because there's a tactic here. So if you want to spot the tactic, it's black's turn to move. What's a good move for black? Okay, yeah, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. Yeah, the tactic, which we both missed, was knight to c3, forking the queen and the rook, so he can pick up the exchange there. Now, though white has some compensation, that's still good for black. Yeah, we were both thinking about other knight maneuvers, right? I was worried about this knight maneuver, forking those two guys. And he was planning this knight maneuver, hitting the queen and getting his knight over near my king, maybe even, well, supporting the bishop or the knight coming to h3. So we both had our eyes on knight maneuvers, but not on the most accurate one. I mean, there's also this fork here if I don't keep guard of that square. But when I played queen e4, I actually opened up this square for a fork and placed my queen on a forking square. So that was why that was a mistake. Instead of queen e4, let's see, the chess engine says just bring the rook to the e file. Let's see, if the knight comes over here to b4, just give up that piece. It's not a big deal. And in fact, it gives, cancel that. What was that? Oh, rook takes e5. Yeah, that was the point. it actually likes black here, white here, I mean, because I'm going to win this knight anyway, because he's going to have to deal with this threat along the diagonal, and I've managed to pick up a pawn. So white's doing quite well there. So I actually, you know, after, let's see, I made a mistake, he made a mistake. I had the advantage again for a while there. But, well, queen e4 was a mistake, and knight f4 was a mistake because he didn't fork my pieces. So I'm still doing well here. Actually, I think the chess engine is once again liking white here. And you can see that my king isn't that much weaker than black's king. They're really about the same. And he's got these 3 isolated pawns, whereas I have 2 pawns that are connected, and his pawns are somewhat restrained at this moment. They can't easily push forward without sacrificing. Well, maybe he could play a4, right? If I take, he takes on a2. Anyway, he didn't go that way. Let's see. He went knight f4. It's my move. I went rook d to e1. Taking a look at this pawn, I thought if I could just get rid of the queens, I would be in pretty good shape here for this endgame. He went bishop h3, though, and I don't really have time for this check and exchange of queens because my rook will be dropping. So I go rook g1, which was part of my plan here anyway. Now he goes rook a to e8, just in time, defending the e-pawn. And I go knight e2, trying to get rid of this annoying knight over here. He goes bishop f5, hitting my queen. And I went queen c4, which is not a bad move, but there was this interesting other line here. I thought queen c4 was the only move, so I was just surprised to find the chess engine saying that queen to e3 is also playable. And then if he takes, I can actually just take the knight. And you might want to look at this position and see if you can figure out why that's working. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. The point is, well, one point is his king has no moves, so the king is going to be mated if I get something on the back rank. So if he takes here, I can just take that rook, and I'm threatening to take there with mate, and if he takes back, the rook takes with mate. So anyway, I can just grab that knight, and that's another way to deal with things. But this is all about even here. Queen c4, he trades. Take back, knight takes, queen takes. I managed to hold on to my c-pawn, and this really should end in a draw at this point, but well, I am starting to get low on time, and well, he is too, so we're actually both making some mistakes here there, so there are some last chances here to win the game. I go rook g3, goes queen f4, rook e to g1, doubling on the g file. This looks like a good idea, and h6. H6 is a losing move, so he should play e4 and try and simplify things. The chess engine gives this line with queen b2 check, queen e5 just trading, taking, and that's pretty clearly even. I mean, if anyone's better, white's a little bit better because of those 2 weak pawns, but black's rooks are active, and my king is trapped. So pretty drawn position. He went h6, and in fact, at this point, I have a winning move. If you want to think about it, what's the best move for white here? Okay, well, it wasn't the move I played, which was queen a6. I was looking at these weaknesses over here and trying to bring my queen in this way, but he always has this idea of bringing his rook up to block me from getting in from that side. So the way to get in is to put the queen over here. And after queen g2, there's actually no defense. I can just operate on the g file, and well, the chess engine starts sacrificing pieces to avoid the mate. I guess one idea would be to put this rook here on g7 and then bring the queen in and threaten to take here with a mate, and that might force him to start giving up material. Anyway, that's a winning idea, is tripling on the G file. It's not like I can give you a single sequence because there's lots of possibilities there, but I wonder, if I could just get this rook out of the way with tempo, then queen to G7 would be mate. But if I move the rook to the side, Yeah, if I move the rook to the side, then his rook is going to come over to guard the g7 square. Yeah, I just don't see immediately how I'm winning, but anyway, the chess engine rates that as a win for white. Anyway, I went with this other line, queen a6, and well, we're starting to get into the part of the game where I'm short on time here too. He goes rook f6. I grabbed these pawns. This is okay. I haven't lost yet. See, he goes e4. I grabbed another pawn here, takes on f3, and I brought my queen back to f2. And I'm still doing okay. I don't think I'm winning anymore, but I should still be able to hold this position. Let's see, he goes h5. And actually, I think h5 was a bit of a mistake. The chess engine is saying with rook g5, I still have some winning ideas. Let's see, he goes rook f5 to block it. My queen comes in here to b6 now. And this is kind of interesting. If he tries to block my queen, then the rook is just going to take that pawn, and that's just mating. If he takes with the rook, then the queen can come over with the check and pick up this rook, and that's also a killer attack there. I think I end up winning material. Or if he takes with the queen, rook takes, and then queen here, check, picks up the rook, and I'm winning by material. So there was another winning chance for me. Anyway, I went rook d1 here. This is a bad idea. I'm trying to take the fight to black, but I've weakened my king side position here. This is still not losing yet. Let's see, rook e2. I go rook d8 check. Goes king h7. And I go queen a7 check, and that's actually the losing move. So if we back up, what could I play here? Queen dropping back to g1 is still an idea, and I think this ends up in a draw. Chess engine gives this line. I mean, there is this this threat here of check and mate. So he has to do something drastic. Rook takes h2 check. King. Queen takes. So actually, I think it was rated about the same. There are lines that end up in pretty much a drawn position. He has this advanced pawn here. The rook comes back to stop it. Queen e4 check. Queen g2 blocking. Now queening. And then rook takes. And king runs away from the check. Queen goes here, check. And I block. And then there's this trade. And it's this kind of endgame where white is a pawn up, but the chess engine rates this as about even. So I guess I can't actually make progress with my pawns over here. I have to always worry about black's advanced passed pawn. It's these positions where both sides have passed pawns can be very, very double-edged. Even the side that has fewer pawns can sometimes end up winning if their pawn is more advanced. But the chess engine rates this as a draw. So it wasn't until I played this move, queen a7 check, that I am losing. And I think he did a pretty good job for the first few moves. He was low on time as well. So he actually made one mistake here. It's right here. So there's a forced mate here with queen e3 check. This is the cleanest way to win. Say king goes here, then the queen goes here and here. And that's a mate. So there was a forced mate in 3 at this point. He went queen g4 check, and I had one last chance to get a draw by blocking with my queen. But well, I was just moving as fast as I could. What I saw was that I was threatening things on the back rank. Yeah, when I played my queen a7 check, I thought, yeah, that's right. I still had this rook here, so I thought I was going to be able to threaten mate and threaten his queen. But yeah, he's able to play all those moves with check. After I go queen b8, yeah, it's this move here. Threatens the mate on the back rank, because rook there would be mate with this rook still on the board. And it also just threatens to trade the queen and get into a hopefully better endgame for me. But the fact that he does all this with check means that it's just not working for me, since every move comes with check. And it's just that this, cancel that move. He went queen g4 check, and that was just an inaccurate check. He had a forced mate there, but I could have blocked that. But instead I went king f1, and now he's got the forced mate again. And he delivered it. So anyway, it was a very interesting fighting game. And, well, it's what happens when you get low on time. It's typical of Blitz, I guess, particularly in the games that go the distance like this. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you again soon. Bye.